Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I am your host. Folks, today Goldilocks is sharing information that is very important on the updates of Vietnam and now switching to only the Vietnamese dong for foreign investors from around the world. Then we're going to touch on Iraq and their latest update and what they need to do in order to revalue the dinar. And then the global banking system, what's happening with other currencies. Goldilocks is sharing all of that today. Let's jump right into it. What Goldilocks is stating, and this is directly from Vietnam on their new laws that they passed earlier this year that went into effect in June. Now these laws for the Vietnamese dong are active and live for the global banking system. It states Vietnam's 2025 regulatory updates. This is laws that are now updated regarding the dong. They include a new role and a new rule for using the Vietnamese dong by foreign investors. Who are foreign investors? These are the big money institutional investors. What Dinar land would call, what Dinar land would understand the language of a whale, but not a whale in which you think of a Dinar land whale as having a lot of money. Or let's say having a lot of currency, a lot of bonds. What I'm speaking of when I say whales, because I'm utilizing that term whales as an analogy for you to understand the magnitude of foreign investors. These are the big money institutions that move trillions and trillions of dollars every day in Forex. Those are the real deal whales. Those are the institutions. These are the big money players from around the world. Not some individuals that got bonds, that got a lot of bonds supposedly and a lot of currency. Those are not whales. Those are not even goldfish. I am speaking of real institutions. Those trillion-dollar institutions that move trillions in Forex daily, they now, through the laws passed in Vietnam, they now have the legal right to invest in Vietnam solely using the Vietnamese dong, whereas before they were using the US dollar. We are beginning to see the shift, the power shift, if you will, from investors utilizing the US dollar mainly to the Vietnamese dong. Why? Again, the US dollar is getting weaker. Who wants to use a weak currency? Would you not think logically that an investor wants to use a stable, strong currency, or at least one that is expected to move up in value? This is the Vietnamese dong. what Goldilocks is showing is that this above statement reflects a key law passed and here in 2025 in the update. Actually, it's number 3-2025 in the Vietnamese law books now. And it specifically regulates, legalizes the opening and use of Vietnamese dong accounts by foreign investors to invest in the securities departments of Vietnam. What are securities? Currencies, bonds, assets of Vietnam. This now gives the legal rite of passage for the big money institutions to invest in Vietnam and Vietnam's financial stability by using only the Vietnamese dong. This new law amends the previous law as it pertains to foreign currency exchange with the dong. This law requires that foreign investors, folks, these are not individual investors. These are big. If you think of that you need at least $1 billion to invest now in cash and have to be licensed by foreign and local governments, that's who qualifies to do this. Now, as it states, compliance is mandatory. So compliance for these investors is mandatory to solely invest in Vietnam in the securities arena with solely the Vietnamese dong. Compliance is mandatory, like I said, for activities like securities trading, capital contributions, and unlisted enterprises. What Goldilocks shows is this is a proactive approach by Vietnam and their central bank to prepare the Vietnamese dong for an increase in rate. This is one of the ways how the Vietnamese dong will increase in rate. What is it that causes a currency to go up or down in rate? Supply and demand. The demand for the dong is going up because these foreign direct investors are pumping money into it. That causes the value of a currency to go up. Then Goldilocks shares about Iraq and what Iraq needs for the dinar to be listed on Forex. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, the dinar is not listed internationally, not listed on Forex. It's listed, but not internationally. To enable the dinar for trading on global Forex markets, Iraq must achieve full convertibility and liquidity and international trust per the IMF guidelines. This is from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And I'm going to explain it to you what they're stating about the dinar. Remember, there are 4 institutions that oversee the revaluation of currencies. It is the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, U.S. Treasury. Key remaining steps. This is from the IMF. Key remaining steps. Building their reforms. They must show sustained, aligned, official, parallel currency rates for the dinar. They must enforce the dinar to be used in domestic transactions, such as purchasing cars and real estate, so forth and so on, to enhance customs, to prevent smuggling, and simplify forex access of the dinar in country. So they must use the dinar for purchasing cars, homes, other things. See, the US dollar is no longer used in trade, but there's still a small pocket. When I say trade, I mean on the water, imports and exports. The dinar is now used for that. Now internally within the streets and domestically for everyday use of purchasing homes and cars. For example, there's other things as well. They must move to use the dinar. This is where supply and demand. The demand for the dinar will continue to go up as it is used in country. This is directly from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Iraq, this is another thing that the IMF is stating Iraq must address. Anti-money laundering. They must implement their 5-year action plan with risk-based supervision to expand the dinar. They must implement advanced banking reforms for the dinar. And they must accept the IMF's recent reforms for formally committing to non-discriminatory current account convertibility. These would unlock, these guidelines that the IMF is telling Iraq they must adopt will unlock the dinar. There are things that they are doing, yes. There are things that Iraq is doing to address these matters, yes. We watch and we wait. We get prepared. We establish these relationships with the actual banking institutions. We are not to be reactive. Then Goldilocks is sharing on the overall global currency reset. A weak dollar and strong gold creates a tailwind for emerging market currencies, meaning creates strength behind the emerging market currencies from which many of those currencies many of us hold. If you have dinar, you have dong and others, those are emerging market currencies. A falling US dollar typically accompanied by the rising prices of gold creates favorable environments for the appreciation in the value of emerging market currencies such as the dong and the dinar. This relationship is well established. Correlation rather than a direct causation. What Goldilocks is showing and stating is that not all emerging market currencies benefit equally. I'm going to repeat that. Not all emerging market currencies benefit equally. See, folks, these countries, they're all on a different... They operate differently. Their currencies move differently, but they sync collectively in the new banking system. Each country has their own rules, their own guidelines, their own ways of doing business and trade with their currencies. That all comes into effect, is a factor. Countries with high levels of dollar-denominated debt, meaning a lot of debt that they purchased through the dollar, these countries are beginning to shift towards other currencies that are becoming stronger because the US dollar is getting weaker. Yes, Vietnam qualifies, Goldilocks is stating, as an emerging market that can benefit from the dynamics outlined. A declining US dollar often boosting gold prices and supporting emerging market currencies, particularly those with dollar-denominated debt. And Iraq Iraq exemplifies an emerging market that stands to gain significantly from the dynamics just mentioned. A declining US dollar boosting gold prices and supporting emerging market currencies from which many of us hold. They create an environment for the appreciation of all those currencies. As Iraq is a largely oil-denominated economy, they must begin to diversify their profits to not solely depend on oil. So in essence, Iraq cannot have all their eggs in one basket for the dinar. This is something that no other successful country is doing. The IMF is requiring Iraq, in order for them to be able to put the dinar on the international stage, for it to be strong, is to diversify their economy to not solely depend on oil. Is Iraq moving to do just that, to not depend on oil? Yes. They are opening to other foreign investors to come into Iraq, to invest in Iraq, just like what's happening in Vietnam. This should make sense to you so that you can see what is happening in real time with the countries for the currencies that many of us hold. Beautiful folks, you're in the right place at the right time. Hang on. Don't let go. Don't quit. Don't give up. Keep going. The end is not far away. We love you, folks. Ciao.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.